Welcome, you're logged on to Tech at Work on CNBC Africa. I'm Darren Kerr. In the next half hour, we discuss developments in software in Africa with Stephen Cohen, MD of Softline Pastel. Jonas Tulin from Fire.ID gives us tips on how not to fall prey to cyber criminals. Toby Shapshak fills us in on the latest gadgets, plus Herman Bliffnote of Spoor and Fisher talks digital piracy. Softline Pastel is a leading local developer of business management and accounting software. Stephen Cohen, MD of Softline Pastel, regularly travels the continent for business. He's in studio with me to chat about the challenges the continent faces in terms of software and technology and how they're overcoming these barriers. Stephen, welcome to Tech at Work. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I think let's just start off with Softline Pastel has been in the market and been successful for over 21 years. Tell us what factors contribute to that success?
When you're talking about your software specifically that we're involved in as Pastel, your support infrastructure is very important, but it's mission critical. So once users get to trust it, word of mouth is critical, continual investment in your technology is critical, and then it's almost that you build your momentum from there. So we were very powerful in the early 90s. People trusted the software. It's mission critical. The books have to balance. And we've really just grown from there and really reinvested in the business. 150 people in support, probably 40 people in R&D. But because it's mission critical, if you buy a computer game, for instance, if it doesn't work, it's a bit irritating, but it's no big deal. But people need to trust financial software. Bank managers look at it to give loans. The receiver of revenue or SARS is going to look at it in order to collect your taxes. So people are kind of very fastidious in the way they look after their accounting operations.
What's the next step for accounting technology and software in the African market? What are you working on?
Okay, it's a question I've always asked myself. I am a chartered accountant. My parents wanted me to be one. I didn't particularly want to be one. But it did give me insight into what businesses need to run their operations. Traditionally, accounting software started because of one primary reason: accuracy. And then the second reason was to be efficient. So if you're sending out 1,000 statements to your customers, instead of handwriting it, I'm going to press a button. But that's historic stuff. What's really cool now is to take it onto the web and really allow people to use the software intelligently to make decisions going forward, instead of giving financial statements to their bank, which is historic, and sending out statements. I think you can be a lot more creative with accounting software, as difficult as it may be for you to believe. But for instance, our new cloud application, you can see your sales geographically represented on Google Maps in different colors, which, like a picture tells 1,000 words. So instead of just text, now you can see it geographically, and it's all cool. Stuff for the iPhone. Being on the road, be able to see your customers, who you're visiting, address, put a pin in Google Maps, take you there. So I think we're actually having a lot of fun at the moment doing this stuff. I've been in the game for 20 years, and I must say that this is the most fun that I'm having, honestly.
If we look at the other countries in Africa, you travel quite a bit throughout Africa. Tell us some of the challenges that they're facing when it comes to accounting software, and what is Softline Pastel doing in those regions?
Well, just in 1 minute. I came back from Kenya about 3 weeks ago. And what's amazing that I find in Africa, and really from the taxi drivers to the people running these little stores on the side of the road, there is a can-do attitude. And what I find in Kenya is that they've almost leapfrogged the telecom story with digging cables under the ground. The mobile thing is amazing. I was finding more pressure from the Kenyans to say, when are you bringing out your internet version, as I do from the South Africans, which I found was quite weird. And then I learned about this M-Pesa thing, that cell phone banking, where you don't need a bank account, you can transfer money. Apparently they got like 70% penetration rate there, and now they've tied up with a bank where you can actually earn interest on your M-Pesa account. So you don't need a bank. And it's this kind of internet savvy, I want to do things now. Infrastructure may be a problem, but the amazing thing about Africa is that the people just get along with it in spite of the issues. Where I find in South Africa, we tend to complain a bit. And the taxi driver was talking to me about politics, and I was embarrassed, and I consider myself quite well read. They read avidly there, the newspapers, radio, it's massive. The challenges, however, are skill, and infrastructure. And we have opened an office there now because we had about 3,000 users in Kenya over the last 5 years. But you can actually have a problem if your service isn't there, because they feel a bit removed from, call it, the entity that writes the software. And we saw all our clients who were having issues, and most of them were easily solved because the software was doing it, but they didn't have the right training or after-sales service. So that's why it's necessary to open up an office. And for somebody coming from South Africa, it's expensive to open up an office. You need a driver, you need rental accommodation for your staff. It's not simple, but I believe that it will be well worth it. This whole East African community story between Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and there one or two other countries. It's amazing the level of cooperation between the countries where they want to have this market that's now opening up. And together with a can-do attitude, you've got 130 million people in that common market, I think $175 billion of turnover or GDP. So the reward, you've got to do it maturely. If you're going to go in there and drop your box and then leave, you will actually come back a month later and people will be upset with you because they think your software is deficient.
So there's definitely a need and a hunger for growth and development in East Africa. Moving on to the cloud, how important is that for Softline Pastel?
Okay, at this point
in South Africa and in other regions on the continent.
As I said, I've never had as much fun, but the money aspect of it at the moment is not there. We sell, around about 2,500 packages a month on our cloud software, which is really world class. In the last 8 months, we only have about 2,000 users. But I really believe that in 5 years' time, when you have kids, I don't know if you've got kids now, but if your kid comes to you and you give them a DVD to install on their computer, if it's not a movie, they're going to say, what is this? They're used to Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of Wikipedia. So they're going to expect their software to run in the cloud. So I really believe that in 5 years' time, 50, 60, 70% of all software sold will be in the cloud. The reasons to do it, or the advantages, are too compelling to ignore it. If your PC gets stolen, you don't care, your data's in the cloud. If your off-site accountant wants to log in, they don't have to drive out, they're another user on the system. It's fun, it's mobile phones, it's all that kind of stuff, and obviously do it from anywhere. If you're overseas having a meeting and you forgot some data, you log in. So I think that it's really compelling and it's exciting as well. It's new. So we're also doing a lot of stuff where we look at what we've done over the last 20 years and we now have this opportunity to redevelop. So I think it's nirvana for people like ourselves, just in terms of everything we wanted to do right, we can now do.
Well, on that fresh note, Stephen Cohen, the MD of Softline Pastel, thanks for joining us on Tech at Work.
Oh, thank you very much, Darren.
Today's cyber criminals are increasing depths at gaining undetected access and maintaining a persistent, low-profile, long-term presence in IT environments. Online security today requires more than just username and passwords. The need is particularly critical in financial services. Jonas Truling, the Vice President for Sales Engineering at CNBC. Thank you very much for joining me on Tech at Work. Now, we're going to be looking at an important aspect today, and that's online security. We know that mobile phones are increasingly being used in our lives. We use them for our banking, emails, etc. But they pose a risk for us, for online banking, etc., one-time passwords. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it's a big problem today when we're online, is protecting our information and what we do transactionally or just storing or writing emails. Is that most websites we use online rely purely on